All right, welcome back to another edition of Inside BBI with John and Eric. I'm John McDevitt, and with me, as always, senior editor of Big Blue Interactive, Mr. Eric Kennedy. And Eric, I didn't think we would be doing this so early in the season of this might be make or break time. I'm pretty sure it's make or break time for the Giants, but here we are, week 2, and it's the band keeps the band keeps playing. But how you doing, my friend?
Well, the numbers are officially out. The Giants are 32nd in scoring with a full slate of games under the league's belt. We're 32nd in scoring, and we're 31st in defense. Does this sound familiar?
Nice.
So here we are again.
So
the New York Giants are arguably the worst football team in the NFL. And with those, we will finish the league perhaps with the worst with the worst record in the NFL.
Oh. So. And with those current statistics, we'd have a hard time scoring on ourselves.
Yes, that's what she said.
Yes, nice. Last night, I think. What's really funny is last night proved the point I was trying to make in the last broadcast. But the problem is
you're talking about the Commanders. You're talking about Packers.
Packers last night. Yeah, I should be clear about that. Kind of established a point I was trying to make in the last broadcast about the Giants Commanders game, except for the one differentiating factor is the Commanders are not the Giants, and that is throughout the game, Green Bay dominated that game. Green Bay should have been up at some points, probably could have been anywhere from 21-3. It could have been 28-3 at one point. They missed a couple of really big plays. There were a couple things here or there. They were just moving up and down the field. Yet here the Commanders were in the game, and it could have swung back the other way. They started to score, and then Green Bay kind of went back and took control of it. The difference between the Giants in the Commanders game and the Commanders-Packers game is at no point in time did the Giants offense ever get them, even though Washington left them hanging around, which is what Green Bay did. Green Bay really left that door open for a while, and those are times where teams come back. Minnesota did it to Chicago on Sunday night or Monday night, and then this is something that could have easily happened to the Giants Commanders, except for the fact that the Giants never got any offensive production at all throughout that game, no matter how much they were led along. And last night's game, watching that, was very disappointing to see how easily Green Bay, and they're talented, moved up and down the field on that Washington team.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, last night was even more damning for the Giants. So if I keep doing it. Commanders, if the Commanders had gone into Green Bay and beat up on Green Bay, Giants fans might be, the opening day loss wasn't so bad. That didn't happen. Instead, the Commanders look like NFC Championship game frauds a little bit last night. So, again, we'll have to see how this plays out over the extended season. But based on last night's game, the Giants look even worse than we thought. So, I'm trying to find a silver lining in all of this, but through 1 week, this is not looking good, and I think the Brian Daboll watch is officially on. Does he drag Joe Schoen down with him? And Joe Schoen deserves, if Brian Daboll goes, Joe Schoen probably should go because he gave him the groceries. So, again, I don't want to be too negative, guys. I know this isn't fun. You guys out there are probably turning this off. You want to hear this, but we're not going to lie about it. This is bad. If the Giants don't win against the Cowboys, and Daboll's 0-6 against the Cowboys, and I confirm, John, the Giants have not beaten Dak Prescott since 2016. There was one game the Giants won back in 2020, but Prescott was on IR at that point.
Right.
He was out of so they have not beaten them since 2016, which was a playoff season for us, one of the few in the last decade. And that seems like ancient history. I mean, we're talking that was 9 years ago. I mean, so
it's hard to believe.
This is bad. I mean, so you and I thought that Dallas wasn't going to be good this year, but they go into Philadelphia, and they gave Philadelphia a game. And I thought they're again, I was just looking at their stats, again, vis-a-vis the rest of the league, they're in middle of the pack on defense and offense. Believe it or not, their defense is 14th in the league right now. And ours, like, again, is towards the bottom, and their offense was around 18, but I don't think their offense is going to be a problem. The thing about Dallas is they've got, they know how to build an offensive line, and they're retooling their offensive line. They've got 3 Tylers that all look like seriously good players. They've got a center, and so they've got a good offensive front. And now they've got 2 wide receivers. Dak is Dak, and the running game is there, but they've got enough, and they got a tight end. So they're better than us on offense. And right now, statistically, they're better than us on defense. So this should be not a problem from Dallas to beat the Giants on Sunday, and they've got an extra time to prepare for us. So we'll see. The Giants have to go in there and pull off an upset to keep hope alive. If we're 0-2 going into a home game against the Kansas City Chiefs, the roof's going to collapse, and this season's going to suck. So the only thing to look forward to at that point is the quarterback, and when they make the switch.
Right. So before I address some of the things that you were saying about the game itself, I'm going to say there's 2 ways you can look at the after this weekend's over.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is positive. The other one will be presented as positive by the team or whatever, and it won't be. The first positive is if the Giants were to beat Dallas and Philadelphia were to lose to Kansas City, which is a possibility, the Chiefs are a very good team, you would have 3 1-1 teams and 1 0-2 team, just based on the way the schedule has gone so far. That's how it's going to be. If the Giants lose to Dallas and they're the 0-2 team, but the other stuff still goes through, Philadelphia still loses to Kansas City, then technically they're 1 game back. They're not 1 game back. And that's how it's going to be. That's how it would be presented. But the problem is those things are fine when you're the team that won your way into the discussion, not when you lost your way, but everybody else lost, so you didn't stay that far. They will have lost everything. Their only chance of doing anything, regardless, is you have to win this weekend, and not just play well. You have to win. The idea of playing well went out the window in week 1. Now you have to win. You can't just have a loss where you played poorly, and then you go and play, well, we played better and it was competitive, but we still lost. You can't do that.
Right.
You got to win the game. So one thing about Dallas coming into this game, though, is they had a thin secondary is now a bit thinner. The Giants cannot just rely on this, whatever they were trying to do last week. They're going to have to attack. You've got to throw the ball.
Yeah, but Wan'Dale Robinson is dinged up. Slayton may have gotten hurt. Slayton's on the injury, mysteriously appeared on the injury report yesterday as limited, which means he either got hurt the day before and Daboll didn't mention it in the press conference, or it means he got hurt in practice yesterday. He's got a groin injury. So if he got hurt in practice yesterday, we're taping this before the injury report comes out. So
right.
We're taping this so everyone knows Friday morning. We don't know what the final injury status is. But we could be looking at a game where Slayton's not playing and Wan'Dale's limited. So Bland doesn't play. Again, they're 14th in defense. We're dead last in offense. I don't think Dallas is quaking in
I'm sure they're not.
Yeah, I mean,
but the Giants can't walk into that game like that either. You have to play the game. I don't care.
Oh, I know that. But we have a head coach and an offensive coordinator who are incompetent. And we have an offensive line that can't block. We have a quarterback who has reverted his form. We have a tight end who drops balls. Constantly. And we have a wide receiver group now that's banged up in week 2. So, and we can't run the football. But besides that, everything, we might pull off the upset. I mean, I think this is, John, I've reached the point where the Giants have to prove it to me.
Oh, sure.
To give them any credit. I mean, I'm done. I'm not done with this team, but I'm done believing in this team until they prove otherwise.
Well, let's lay out less about it. It could happen, might not happen. Let's look more like at who's going to play or who's not going to play. So I'll play more of a question game for you then.
Right.
Let's start with the least of the big ones. We'll get to the big one last. Jalin Hyatt did not play a single snap, knowing that we're a little banged up, and you need to stretch teams to get them to back off if you're going to run the ball at all. Do we see Jalin Hyatt out on the field getting any meaningful snaps?
Only if Slayton is not playing. If Slayton's playing, we won't see Hyatt. Hyatt's behind Bo Collins, it looks like now. I think Hyatt's done too. I think I mean, he's behind. Like you said, he didn't even play, and he's going to mentally check. I mean, he's mentally weak guy anyways. And last year, so he played less in the opener than he played last year, and last year he threw a hissy fit. So I suspect we'll see hissy fit part 2 with him, and he'll check out again. People will say, Eric, you're overreacting. You're basing this all too much on one game. It's not one game. This goes back to last year and the year before that. So again, until Jalin Hyatt shows anything that he can even get on the field, I'm going to assume he's not going to get on the field. I have said since it became clear that Slayton, they re-signed Slayton, that Hyatt was the 4th wide receiver, and the only way he was going to get significant playing time was if somebody got hurt in front of him. But now it looks like Bo Collins has moved ahead of him. So say Slayton doesn't play. Here's a question for you. Who do you expect to replace Slayton? Would it be Hyatt or Bo Collins?
I'd be Bo Collins.
Right?
Yeah, since he got playing time in week 1, has to be.
So how does Slayton make a play? I mean, how does Hyatt make a play if he's not playing? So that's where I am right now. That gets surprises. Again, everyone listening out there, don't hold us to these things because we're just reacting to what we're seeing. But if they somehow dramatically change this up, the only thing that changed this week to me was Daboll got weirdly expansive in his press conference. It was like he went on and on and on in his opening statement. That was, and he's never done that before. Other coaches have done that. They'll, talk about the other team. Tom Coughlin used to do that. Other coaches between Tom Coughlin and Daboll have done that. Daboll oddly never really ever talked about the other team, but he spent minutes just talking about the Dallas Cowboys the other day. It was kind of odd, and he seemed very, very much more forthcoming. So Connor Hughes tweeted out about it. He says, this is a way different Brian Daboll presser than we've seen, and that tells me that he's feeling the heat, and maybe he's trying to adjust a little bit, but too little, too late. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. But we were told by everyone they had a great practice this week. We know how that's gone. Remember, isn't it Joe Judge that used to tell us all the time that they had a great week of practice?
Yeah. Great. And it was always shocking the game didn't go that way. And I always thought, why are you shocked? You practice against yourself. Everybody else has been doing well against us. Why wouldn't you do well against us? Yeah, it's weird. I don't know what to make of it. It'll be interesting to see as we go forward what that was all about.
You're talking about Daboll?
I'm talking about Daboll. It's just weird. It's weird with him. I always have a problem with him. I have a problem with him in the way he talks about injuries. Again, I don't expect that he tells you. A lot of people take it that I think he should just tell it. That's not what I mean. He goes out of his way to say things in such a way that it actually invites more questions. If you were just same with the offensive line, right? He goes out of his way to talk about JMS. Why did you go out of your way to talk about JMS?
Well, he was asked about JMS.
Not immediately though, when he started talking about the offensive line, and then the question, and he goes on, he's strong, he's this. I'm like, so everything that you've seen people say and talk about, that he's weak up front, he's been pushed back, he can't maintain, he falls off. You go out of your way to just drop superlatives all over him. He's so good. He's really hard worker. He does this and it, and I'm like, are we at the point now where this is almost, and I don't want to bring in topics that we don't talk about normally, but this is almost like a political thing or something else where you ignore the obvious just to reinforce your position to just say these other things. Obviously, the offensive line did not play well. That was pretty obvious.
Right.
Is it game plan? Is it the quarterback? Now, the one big negative with the quarterback that we talked about it constantly before they even played preseason games is Russell Wilson's really good on the outside and deep, but it was across the middle based on his height, his lack of his old mobility, and how he was now bringing his eyes down and moving, like kind of running around in circles behind the line. That has taken away that part of his game. We were like, how is that going to work? Because a lot of our stuff is predicated on things anywhere from the line of scrimmage to about 7 yards out, that those kind of things really set up everything else. He did not do well in that area last week. He was very poor. He took his eyes off there. He moved away quickly. Some would say he ran into sacks or took himself out of plays.
He did.
So what do you think, going back to my questions on players, we saw what happened with Johnson last week. Do we see a lot more of Bellinger playing this week now to get a little bit more natural pass catching ability from that position, or do they keep just trying to get it to Johnson and hope he turns it around?
I would think it's the latter, and I would hope it would be the latter. I certainly wouldn't give up on him after one game. But if he starts off in the first quarter and he drops another ball, I'm bringing in Bellinger at that point. There's got, like I said last podcast, there's got to be consequences. Theo Johnson is the more dangerous player, but you got to catch the football. So the question is when and if and when do we see changes made when people continue the same bad behavior?
Right.
So that includes quarterback. So that gets probably that you and I will probably spend the bulk of the rest of this conversation on Jaxson Dart, but that's with everybody. If someone on the offensive line isn't playing well, do they get pulled? Or do they keep playing the same guy who keeps making the same mistake? For instance, if James Hudson can't block, does Marcus Bowe come in, or do they start moving the offensive line around like you've suggested again, put Illuminor at left tackle and Bowe at right tackle? Do they do something like that? But again, that seems like, they're reacting to something and it's too late. So it just feels like the roof is about to collapse. Now, if they go into Dallas and they beat Dallas, that arrests this whole, the quote, an old show, arrests this development.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
Nice.
What I mean is it stops the immediate negative talk, and it starts fixing, at least in the short term, or provides us some hope, and maybe they can pull off an upset against the Chargers or Chiefs, and then go into New Orleans, and then have the New Orleans game, and then maybe sort of stabilize things. But they have to beat Dallas, and some of this is weird, John. It's like so Russell Wilson comes in. We know, you and I talked about this when they signed him. He's an outside thrower. He has issues now throwing over the middle. We saw that in his last couple of stops. But then he comes in, and we see training camp highlights of him throwing over the middle and to the tight ends and through the wide receivers. But you can say, wow, he knows he's not going to get hit. So, of course, he's going to be comfortable doing that. But then in the preseason games, he's throwing some over the middle, and he's throwing to the tight ends. And I kept mentioning that. Whoa, it's a really good sign that he's throwing to the tight ends. Oh, it's a really good sign that he threw a pass over the middle to Wan'Dale Robinson. But then we get into the first game, the one that counts, and all those ugly things again rear their ugly head again. Right. So here comes Dallas. Does he start throwing the guys over the middle, at least make the defense even worry about that stuff? Because if they don't have to worry about the middle of the defense, you know how much that limits your offense? If the other team thinks that you're not going to throw over the middle, you're screwed. So, and can the Giants run the football? Did you see Tyrone Tracy spoke to the media yesterday? I didn't listen to it. I should have. And Connor Hughes just tweeted out one of the things that Tyrone Tracy said is what you said. He said, how do you can't really run a fake play in the goal line if you haven't established the run. He said that. Yeah. Tyrone Tracy said that. So he basically kind of threw his offensive coordinator under the bus a little bit there. So, but Kafka was asked about that yesterday, and he kind of poo-pooed it. He was kind of like, you don't need to be able to do that. And somebody on BBI mentioned yesterday, well, the Chargers couldn't really run the ball really well, but their play action still works very well. Yeah, because the Chargers have a history of being able to establish the run, and a head coach that loves to run the ball. So the other team is going to respect the run even from the get-go, because they know who Harbaugh is and who that team is. So play action for when you're facing a run first team will work way better than if you're the New York Giants, because the Giants aren't a running football team and never shown the ability. Even with Saquon Barkley was here, we could not consistently run the football. And why? Because we didn't have the offensive line.
So. And the other part of it too. All right. And I want to be careful that I don't get scatterbrained about how I want to say this. You know what I mean?
It's hard not to be scatterbrained.
You're trying to think well, that's true. You're trying to think of too many things at the same time, and so so I want to try to lay a foundation of where I'm going with this. If you go back to the 80s or early 90s, and I know that's a different era, but just for a second, when the Giants wanted to run the ball, right, they would run. And if you stopped them for a 2-yard gain, that didn't mean they weren't going to run again later. The Giants this past weekend, and I don't know the snap count. I'm just kind of making it up based on what I've witnessed, but I don't have the actual count. But if they ran 20 plays, I got to bet you 6 were running plays, maybe 5 were running plays. But the Giants running plays also, a lot of them are, they take the snap, they drop, and then they kind of just hand it. It's not, and I turn around and hand it to the guy plowing into the line. It's a more passive run. When you do stuff like that and then rely on trickery, there's no physicality that you
The Giants aren't a physical. Yeah, the Giants aren't a physical football team. They haven't been in a decade.
So the second you do anything weird in how you line up, you've tipped the other team off that means something. If the run play was going in that direction, I'm going to tell you, it wouldn't have gone anywhere. the Washington was moving towards the oversized when you had the tackle eligible to that side. They were moving towards that player. For some reason, they were not buying it at all with anything to the right. They knew it was going to the left. You try to send that tackle out. How's he supposed to beat people? That only works is if he gets through the line and there's nobody there. If you're asking him to then make a cut and get open, what the hell?
No,
Put a tight end on the field. What are you doing?
The whole thing was weird. Look, what's even more damning about last night's game with the Packers and Commanders is the Packers were without 2 starting offensive linemen.
Correct.
And at times it showed, but they, like you said, they were able to compensate. We had all our guys except Andrew Thomas, and people will say, yeah, but it's Andrew Thomas, and you're correct. But James Hudson was the left tackle since the spring. So it wasn't like he was thrust in there or thrown in there or this was a surprise. He was supposed to be able to play at a competent level against a team that wasn't very good. I mean, I should say the defense, we've said this repeatedly, the Commanders' defense is not scary.
No.
And we saw that last night against Green Bay. They're not as scary. They're not scary. And Green Bay lost one of their top wide receivers in the game last night too.
Yep.
And again, they didn't miss a beat. They missed, as you said, they missed some opportunities that they really could have put the game away. But it was still a pretty one-sided game. And
if you had changed that game to last Sunday, meaning took Green Bay, Washington, and played them at 1:00 last Sunday, and everything else kind of stayed the same the way the game was going, this game probably would have been 40 to something by the time you got into the third and fourth quarter. Green Bay had the ball so much and moved up and down the field. The only thing that really kept Washington from just completely collapsing defensively was the fact that it wasn't 85 degrees in the sun. It was a little bit cooler, and they weren't becoming completely worn out. Their defense would have been completely worn out. They were on the field a lot last night. If it was a day game, and that's the problem for the Giants. If you do not get first downs, if you don't pick up 15, 20 yards before you give the ball back, your defense is right back on the field. We only have size in 2 defensive linemen, basically. Everybody else is predicated on being strong, being fast, being quick. But if they're on the field over and over, that's where we get let's change out. The Giants made massive changes. Right. 2 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, all coming off the field at the same time. I've never seen a team do that early in a game. You're basically playing your second team. It was like a preseason game. I'm looking, there's 57, there's 93, there's 98. I'm like, what the hell? These guys are all on the field at the same time. That's not how you want that to go.
Well, and Shane Bowen's comments yesterday were not encouraging either, because he was asked about why they couldn't get certain personnel groupings on the field, and he said, well, the opponent didn't allow us to do that because they went up tempo. They forced us to react to what they were doing. You never like to hear that. I mean, I understand what he's saying, and there's a truth to that, But he said it twice during his Q&A with the media. He was basically saying our opponent dictated to us what we could do. That's what he was saying yesterday.
And
so,
and that was part of the thing where what I said, and we'll get back to the specifics to this game in a minute, that I'm going to say that needs to happen in this game if the Giants are going to have a chance. But you know how you combat that, by the way, is maybe you put some of your best players on the field regardless, so that they can't just go up tempo and change it. The Giants are thin inside linebacker right now. They have another injury,
right.
so they might not. You got to play Abdul Carter on the field with Thibodeau and Burns from time to time, and it needs to be more than just a few plays. He's not incapable of playing. Look at Micah Parsons. Look at what he's done to Green Bay, and
Right.
he's still rounding into shape. He's got a back issue. He didn't do anything in the summer for the Cowboys. That dude changed the game. You saw what he did last night.
Right. And they
That's
lined
what
them up inside, and it looked like so. Yeah, it's almost been handed to them on a silver platter. The press asked him specifically about that yesterday. Can't Abdul Carter play inside linebacker for you? And again, I don't expect him to tip his hand, but Shane was like, yeah, that's an interesting idea, So we'll see. I mean, they know they can do it. The question is will they do it? And, the Micah McFadden is going to be out for at least a while. And even when he does come back, the Giants will probably be out of it at that point anyways. But flying under the radar is this Demetrius Flanagan-Foles injury. So now they're really thin at linebacker, because now they have 3 inside linebackers, whereas before they had 5. And so, and one of those inside linebackers is Chris Board, who's really more of a special teams player. We saw him in the preseason. He wasn't good. So if Darius Muasau, who Bowen really talked up yesterday twice, or Okereke, who I don't think played well at all, and a lot of people don't think played well at all in the opener, don't by the way, he said that both linebackers played well. Again, I don't like how this coaching staff addresses the press. It's like what you talked about with Daboll. It's okay to come out and say we played like shit and we need to play better or people are going to lose their jobs. And he's never done that. Daboll's never done that. And it rubs a lot of people the wrong way. I understand it when he's asked about JMS. You might not want to tear him down in public and you might want to build him up. But it's like you said, it's so fake that, people see through it. So, yeah. So, anyways, yeah, we're thin at inside linebacker, and so Abdul Carter I would play Abdul Carter as my inside linebacker for the entire game. I mean, give him some reps to come out for a breather, but he'd be my inside linebacker.
I mean, if you don't, you are risking. Now, the one good thing is Dak isn't the runner that Daniels is, but Dak's not immobile. He's not a statue. He's just not going to run like he's not going to run like he did when he first came in the league, and he's definitely not Daniels. But you still got to get pressure. You got to bring it. And this is one of those times, though, unlike Daniels, where you're rushing to contain, and we didn't do a great job
about that.
You bring the house on him when you want to.
Right.
And I think you're going to see maybe more 3 safety looks probably from this game. You kind of would have to. But that brings your size down even more when you do that. So we are limited. I've hated the defensive style that we have. I don't like the 2. We've talked about it. I hate the 2 D lineman, true D lineman look that we do.
Well,
it opens up too much bad.
Well, watch the last night's game again. Last night's Green Bay's defense is what I expected our defense to look like. They pretty much just rushed 4 guys last night, and they were getting good heat on Daniels with 4 guys. The difference was that their back 7 seemed to be, even though they were playing zone, they seemed to be right with the receivers.
Yeah, their coverage was good.
Coverage was good. Whereas when we were playing, it would be 2nd and 15, and somebody's running free through the secondary and gets 13 yards. So last night, that's kind of what I expected our defense to look like. And again, there's no reason why it shouldn't look like that. So it should be sort of like 4-man when you rush. If you're able to get good heat with 4 people, the other team shouldn't have enough time to really run routes deep down the field because the quarterback's not going to have enough time. So you should be able to play, even in zone, you should be able to play closer up, tighter. And you don't want anyone to get behind you, but you should be able to, because the quarterback's got to get rid of the ball quicker. But our defense didn't look like that. Green Bay's did last night. To me, that comes across as coaching. That, to me, that's coaching. So why are their guys running free in our secondary, yet Green Bay? Because I'm sorry, you can't tell me we don't have, when you have a Debo and you have Holland and you have Newbin, you should be able to tighten up. Now, the one big difference may have been the quality of Green Bay's inside linebackers versus our inside linebackers. That might have been it too. But I listened to Bowen, and Bowen kept saying this guy played well, Flott played well, Banks played well, Muasau played well, and I'm thinking, well, then what was the issue on defense? And he wasn't happy with the way they ended the game with the tackling, but he said the tackling was fine. I still come back to that thing where I was emphasizing is that the Giants were very lucky that the Commanders didn't make the score a lot worse, that they blew some opportunities. So if I was Bowen, I would have been a lot more negative in talking to the press yesterday. We had a long way to go. It wasn't a disaster, but it's not the high standard we expect here. That would have been my message. And instead we got, we weren't so bad. He was good. He was good. I just don't like that messaging. But that's me.
It's interesting too, because I think we're of similar mindsets. I'm looking at it from a different overall picture. You're looking very Giants specific. They haven't given. So from an overall picture, I look at the Minnesota Vikings, Chicago Bears game. Right. I look Green Bay Packers Commanders game last night. Very similar to both teams. The teams that were winning early could have really dominated. Chicago faltered, and Minnesota comes back and takes over.
Right.
Green Bay, on the other hand, really owned it all the way through, but that game became much tighter later because of the fact that they did not put them away early. Washington did not put the Giants away. That's the thing. The Giants.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
No, but your point is still very valid. The problem that I have though is if the Giants offense is never, and at this point we are running on 4 years now, 5 years now, 4 years now of consistent play that says the Giants offense just does not get it. We don't score. If you don't score, I don't care how good Bones defense is going to eventually be. By the fourth quarter, you're going to be dead. You're on the field the entire game. And mentally, take the physical part out of it. Physical is early. Physical where you get worn down is early. Training camps are soft. The temperatures are high. You get worn down. As that moves forward, the physical starts to catch up. The temperatures make it a little bit easier. But then it's the mental. If mentally you go, you know what, this is game 5, and we can't score a touchdown, your defense they start mailing it in. And we've got guys that have proven they will mail it in as it goes along. This is a big turning point right here. So with all that said, before we go back to the side that we need to, and then we'll wrap these up, we'll keep it tight.
Let me just throw one thing in there before you go.
Please. No, please.
Ben in Tampa started a thread that Bland is out for the Cowboys. I'm predicting we score 9 points now. That's where we're at right now. He made it as a joke, maybe, but
so not 12. We're not going to double it.
But it's not, So, anyways, all
right. So with that said, how would you, from the Giants' perspective, defensively, what would you do in this game? What would you want to see them do differently than we did in the first game in terms of how you do it?
We're not talking about enough that this team can't force turnovers still. How can you help out your offense? Get the ball. You even score on defense, but get the ball. So why doesn't this team get interceptions? Why don't we force fumbles? Again, I can't tell you how many times I have written the game story after a game in the last few years and have had to type these words: the Giants did not force a turnover. It happens game after game after game that this team can't force turnovers. So we can say stop the run, get sacks, all that stuff. But you got to make your offense is struggling, help your offense out. I'm not saying they have to try to like get outside their scheme and do something stupid and try to be superheroes. I'm just saying you've got a good pass rush. You should start creating turnovers. The other team should be forcing things. That's what
Right.
I want to see. I want to see us force 3 turnovers against Dallas. We force 3 turnovers against Dallas, we probably will win the game. But and they don't have to be interceptions. Force a fumble. And the fumble can
Right.
be on special teams, but force a fumble. Get an interception. That's what I want to see. The other stuff's obvious. Stop the run. They can't let this Cowboys team run the ball on them. If they do, I mean, and you got to be careful because you saw the Philadelphia Cowboys game. They broke some big running plays against the Eagles. So, this Cowboys team, we'll have to see because it was only one game, but I thought they were going to get crushed in that opener. And, I give them credit for going into that game after trading away Micah Parsons. And they arguably, that was one of the games that, like you were just talking about, Dallas could have stolen that game. They had that game. And actually, I didn't use the word stolen. They were in that game legitimately. They could have won that game if CD Lamb doesn't drop passes. So they've got to face George Pickens and CD Lamb and Ferguson at tight end. They got Dak. Dak knows how to beat the Giants more than anybody else in the world. And they've got a good offensive line. So the Giants better strap on their chin straps because they're going to be playing another physical football team that's well built up front. And this is a better offensive line in terms of quality than the Commanders. So they better be ready for
it. The turnover piece that you mentioned, I think, is forgotten a lot. You could say 22 was Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, but if you go back and look, the Giants won that turnover battle often under Wink in that year. The Ravens game is a classic example. We got multiple turnovers that turned that game around.
Right at the end. Yeah.
The Carolina Panthers game, I believe we had 2 turnovers very early in the game. We barely won that game 19-16. But again, it was multiple turnovers in that game. We have not done that. Last year, 5 interceptions total?
Right.
One was by Musau in the first game, and then we went a long time before we saw another one. You're right. They have to turn the ball over. Now,
do you take a lot of chances if you're Dallas on offense with the Giants?
Well,
I don't.
That's the other thing that's the thing I was going to say. This is the other part of the complete totality that is football,
yes.
the interconnectivity. If your offense cannot score, if you can't put pressure on the other team, I'm not worried about it. I don't throw risky stuff. I go, you know what? We'll punt.
They've got Abdul Carter, they got Thibodeau, they've got Burns. You know what? We're not going to go. We don't have to do something crazy here. Like you said, we'll punt or we'll keep running the football, but we don't. The Giants aren't going to score, so we don't have to really get risky here. We're not going to risk that strip sack. We're not going to. And so that's that's what you just said. I don't want to repeat what you just said, but it's all tied in together. So
I agree with you. Turnovers is a big thing. I think
the offense is part of the defense in this game. You know what I mean?
And one other thing, before we get fully to the offense, we should mention the Giants did put a claim in and got Xavier Gibson from the Jets, who does have a bit of a turnover problem. But he is an explosive returner. I wonder if the reason we looked at that is if we already have injuries at wide receiver, then having him be back there returning, says you really don't want Wandell back there too. So because you had both Gunner and Wandell back there, and Wandell took the bulk of the returns.
Did you see what Jordan Raanan tweeted out yesterday? I missed it until later in the day.
I didn't see that.
He said Wandell got hurt on the kickoff return.
Oh, there you go. So I would not be surprised to see if we are injured a couple things that Gunner's going to get more time playing at wide receiver. I think even ahead of Hyatt. Hyatt's job is on one thing. It's on the outside and run deep. That's it. That's all you're going to use him for. So the pickup of this guy on special teams, does he help or does he hurt? He's explosive, but he could be the Jameis Winston of returns, though. We might get a big one, or he could put the ball on the ground.
Here's a question for you. You're a gambling man.
To a degree.
Does Jalin Hyatt have a catch by the end of this year?
Yes.
And does Evan Neal play a snap this year?
The funny thing with Evan Neal,
maybe in December he might. But
every moment that he doesn't play now through the next two additional games, Josh Azudu becomes available to come off IR. And once he comes off, that's one more player deep that pretty much would keep Evan Neal from having to get on the field, period. Because Azudu can play guard. He can play tackle. I mean, what would you need Neal for? You don't trust him. You obviously do not trust him. I think right now, truly, if you thought he meant anything, right? If you thought he could do anything, why wouldn't you go jumbo every now and then with him being the extra guy before you sneak Bo in as the extra guy to send him out in a pass
because
pattern?
Bo is already past him on the depth chart.
That's
And
not what I'm.
I
That's
know,
not,
I know, but I know what you're saying. But what I'm trying to get is cut to the chase. It's really embarrassing for Evan Neal.
oh, sure.
Is Evan Neal is now behind the 5th round rookie, and Evan Neal has been here since 2022 as the 7th player taken overall in the draft, and that's how bad it is for him.
And he can't even be active. So I'm making an example in a time he wasn't even active. So that's not really fair to say that. But you heard me say it last year. I didn't understand why we didn't use him as the 3rd tight end. They don't trust him enough to come in just to block, knowing that's all he's going to do is run block. They don't trust him to do it. Hyatt, I think will have a catch just because we'll be out of games and he's going to end up playing in it. So here's the big thing. Let's move over to the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
Assuming things don't go well immediately, right? And I don't know. And for you, I'm going to ask you what immediate is to you and what immediate is to me. Do we see Jaxson Dart? So what's immediate to you that's not going well that we would see Jaxson Dart?
I've already said this. Dart would have been started this game for me after the Commanders game. If we're going into the second quarter and the Giants have 1 first down and we're missing open guys or he's running into sacks again, I'm pulling the plug because I don't know why you'd wait at this point. I get the argument. I get where size coming from and other people are coming from. Not behind this line, you don't run them. I keep coming back to what I said is Dart's not playing. Dart's got to play for himself to remain the quarterback on this team, because if the Giants finish as badly as I think they're going to finish, and they do have a new head coach and possibly a new GM, they're going to have a shot at. And again, you talked about this already. We don't know what the quarterback class is going to look like, but the new coaching staff and the new GM may not want Dart unless they see something from Dart that says, wow, he is pretty good. We're going to pass on Nussmeier. We're going to pass on whoever's there,
Sure.
The South Carolina quarterback, whoever's there. We're going to pass on that guy, and because we like our quarterback. So I think Dart's got to play. Now, Daboll's not thinking that way. Daboll's not thinking, well, geez, I got to help the next coach. What are you waiting for at that point, other than this fear that you're going to wreck Dart? But if you're going to have that fear, like I said, wouldn't you rather play him against Dallas than Kansas City? And if they're 0-2 going into the home game at Kansas City and Russell Wilson starting, you already talked about it. The stands are going to go ballistic. We want Dart. I mean, do you really want to get to that mess already?
So huge fan of Cy. I don't agree with the assessment at all. And the reason being is this. You already made Dart the number 2. You've already, and Jameis Winston was the 3rd, and he wasn't the 3rd active. He was emergency. That means if something happened to Wilson, Dart was coming in the game.
Right.
If your mindset or your thought process is, I don't want to play him behind this line, then you should be fired today anyway, because that's the fucking line you put together.
Yeah, I
know. Andrew Thomas is not, if you put him on, doesn't make the other 4 guys suddenly better.
Exactly.
I think there's a combination of a lot of things happening here. One, your play calling is drastically different when it's Russell Wilson than when it is Jaxson Dart. 2, I think the players play harder when it's Jaxson Dart, only because they know he's a rookie and they like him. He brought an energy to the team. They're super excited. Wilson is the politician. They don't have a problem with him, but I don't think they get overly super excited about it either, and neither does he. You made a comment before too. If they fall behind a little bit, it won't fall apart because he'll keep it calm. The problem is I don't see it going the other way though. He's not going to bring the level of enthusiasm up. Right. Jaxson Dart changes that instantly. Everybody on the line knows, hey, we got to protect our young guy here. We got to help him. I think there comes a point where mental plays a lot, and this team, the malaise over it, they've changed parts, right? I mean, we've changed a number of parts, but the malaise remains. I know everybody who would normally be in chat right now, or people that go on BVI, the malaise to them is John Mara and whatever. John Mara is not calling plays in the game. He's not putting the players on the field. We've had 3 different coaching staffs that seem to establish like a goodwill in the beginning, and then things just completely fall apart. Joe Judge had everybody convinced on the 6-10 season that we turned this shit around,
right?
Just because we almost made the playoffs,
right?
Which was a really bad season for the NFC East. It didn't turn out that way. Daboll turned it around and did make the playoffs, and has since fallen apart. I need you to coach, and I need you to play and change this malaise. And I think the only way that's going to happen is Jaxson Dart. I think we see Jaxson Dart in the first quarter. I don't know that it was pulling Wilson as much as it'll be a planned, we're going to put him in for a couple plays, we're going to change him out a little bit. I think we're going to start seeing a little bit of the Detroit Lions from a number of years ago when they would run the run and shoot. And they had Bob Galliano would be in, and Rodney Peete would be in, and they would kind of go back and forth. We're going to see that a little bit for a little while until it becomes 100% Jaxson Dart.
There is a risk here, though, but I think the problem with the Giants situation in the coaching, the expected collapse that I'm seeing is that caution has to be thrown to the wind. There is a risk that Jaxson isn't ready, and Jaxson is going to he should have a lot of negative plays as a rookie, and fans will react and overreact to that, saying he sucks, he stinks. We've given up on him already. That's just the way that the sports world is now. It's immediate gratification, and if you don't get it, it's immediate condemnation. And that's just the sports world. So if Jaxson Dart comes in and throws a pick 6, and he doesn't have a McCarthy like rebound in the fourth quarter or something like that, you're going to have people jumping off the ship already on him. That's the risk, is that you are pushing him in there, and that's what Thai's getting at. I made my point clear. I think there is a need to play him for Dart in itself. And to your point, which is valid too, which you kind of danced around. You didn't dance around, but it's what you're getting to. Wilson's not getting it done. So if Wilson can't get it done, then you got to go to the next guy who you were going to go to him anyways. So there's your opportunity to go to him. So we'll see. I just don't want to go into. I mean, say Wilson plays the whole game. Giants lose 27-9. Shout out to Ben in Tampa. We do score 9. We score 9. We lose 27-9. Russell Wilson plays the whole game, and then at the end of the game, Daboll's going to be saying, "Are you going to make a quarterback switch?" And what's he going to say post game? We're not going to talk about that right now. Or he'll say, Russell Wilson's our quarterback. Then you go back home, your first home game, with Russell Wilson starting. I mean, that's what a nightmare. I mean,
so.
Or do you start Russell? Do you start Dart against Kansas City from the get-go? I mean,
let me ask you this question, though, not necessarily about that, but back to what we were saying a minute ago when you said again that size point about playing Dart. How do you mitigate that same potential issue of maybe a pick 6, maybe he doesn't play so well, fans go crazy, no matter when you play him?
Oh, no, it's true.
There really is no way of avoiding that.
The counter argument to this by those will be, again, is he's not fully cooked. I mean, he won't be fully cooked for years, but he's less fully cooked. You know what I'm saying? That he needs to. I mean, Eli Manning talked about it recently. Eli Manning said there was an advantage to him standing on the sidelines before he came in and played. And Eli Manning played like crap most of that year. There were a couple of games here and there and moments here and there, but we romanticize the comeback against Dallas at the end of the year, and we romanticize a little bit the Pittsburgh game with Roethlisberger, which he lost. But a lot of that season, Eli Manning was like, "Oh gosh,
He was bad.
did we get the wrong? Should we have gotten Roethlisberger instead of Manning?" And Manning still, including myself, was really worried about him through the 2007
well into
season.
2007. Well into
2007.
2007.
So, and Giants fans will not have patience to have Jaxson Dart. I mean, that league doesn't exist anymore. Jaxson Dart can't take 4 years to mature. I mean, that's the thing. So I get what you're saying. I'm not saying you're necessarily wrong. I'm just saying there is an argument that says, you know what? It's still better to have him come in week 11 than it is to come in week 2. There's an argument to be made. Now, the thing is, everybody's different, and sometimes that's not true. Sometimes it's better to play him sooner than later. You can point to quarterbacks who come in immediately, Jaden Daniels, and did great. And you can point to quarterbacks that they were better off sitting on the bench and coming in later. Well, we don't know what's
the scenario, though. The scenario that gets left out of, or the factor that gets left out of this scenario, is the fact that when Manning was coming in, Tom Coughlin was his first year as the Giants coach.
Right.
Dan Quinn's first year as Washington's coach was last year. Jaden Daniels' first year with the team. There's leeway to be had. Brian Daboll has no leeway.
He has no leeway.
And if you don't get Dart in and you don't find out what you have, you are almost hamstringing whoever you do hire. And this is the big problem we've had with John Mara. You might almost have to go find a coach that is willing to come in and go,
you do.
I will take him. I say you throw it to the wind. We saw enough in the preseason to say, you know what? This guy's not going to be overwhelmed where he can't function. He'll make mistakes. We're going to have to coach around that. We're going to have to make sure. But if you just go 2, 3, 4 games in but you made him the backup and not the third string. The third string would have bought you time to go, you know what, we're letting him develop. We're not going to rush him. We could just put in Jameis Winston if we want to. You didn't do that. You already supplanted Jameis Winston. Dart's already the guy.
Right.
That means at some point in time, you want him to play. That time is almost now. The first game of the season, you scored 6 points. You managed to make a bad offense from the year before actually look prolific when you were only able to score 6 points.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of work.
What we don't know is what you were talking about, but we really don't know, John. We don't know what the players prefer right now. So we can speculate.
Sure.
You can have an opinion. I can have an opinion. But we don't know what the locker room. We don't know what does Malik Neighbors does he prefer Russell Wilson still throwing him, or is he kind of getting frustrated and does he want Jackson out there? We don't know that. Does the offensive line prefer Jackson because he makes them look better? We don't know that. We can opine about it, but we just don't know. So to me, this game, is in a lot of ways is the season, and in terms of like keeping the season relevant, alive, interesting to some people. It's also important because of this Jaxson Dart conversation we have. The Jaxson Dart watch is on. The Brian Daboll watch is on. Is the Joe Schoen watch on? We will have to find out. But again, if you fire Brian Daboll, I have a hard time keeping Joe Schoen around because he provided him the offensive lineman, that type of situation.
Well, so, and if Theo Johnson continues to struggle, if you go through the year and he continues to have such a high drop rate, that's another one of your draft picks. You signed AT to a big deal and then you've extended him at a time when he's injured.
Yeah.
If he can't play much at all, or he's a shell of himself, and we don't know what he's going to be.
We don't know what he's going to be like. And he's going to be rusty as hell. That's the other thing everyone does. No one's talking about. People are thinking like, well, when he's back, it'll be fine. No, he hasn't played football. And people don't remember this. He wasn't playing great football.
No.
Last year before he got hurt. He wasn't terrible, but he wasn't at his Andrew Thomas level when they signed him. He had a rough game or two there.
His ultimate level, where he last was at his ultimate level, is and the best way to say this is multiple surgeries ago. And
Yeah, which is scary, which is a
that's a
scary
problem.
statement to say, but you might be right. So, and Sai has brought that up too, that once you start getting a lot of these lower body injuries, that's a little scary. And that's what, I'm not using this as an excuse, but Evan Neal has had a lot of those types of injuries. And
Yes.
I still wonder, is
If that
some of
derailed
his
him.
issues
Yeah.
related to the fact that he's had too many issues with his ankles and stuff. So anyways, I'm not gonna, I want to predict a win. I don't think they're going to win. I think Dallas is the more physical team. Statistically, right now, they're better on offense and defense. Their special teams are certainly better and very dangerous. This may be the most dangerous special teams team that we're going to be playing. And I was impressed with the way Dallas went into Philadelphia and gave them a game when I didn't expect that. Now they're going to be at home. And this is a really important game for Dallas, too. So, in a way, if the Giants do pull off the upset, it'll be a good sign for the Giants, too, because they'll be playing a team that I've got more respect for than I thought I was going to have. So, say what you will about Dallas, and a lot of people may put them down, but they understand that you got to have a good offensive line, and they keep drafting offensive linemen. And the irony is they wanted Evan Neal. That's the thing. They wanted Evan Neal, and they didn't get him. And the one guy they didn't want, Austin sucks. So
I won't predict a Giants victory as much as I would love to go on a limb, but I'll say what they need to do if they are going to win. They need to go. You brought it up earlier in it was basically being said from Bowen about our defense, about how Washington went up tempo. The Giants have to go up tempo a little bit.
mm-hmm.
They need to stop being positional grouping specific for
Right.
certain plays. It tips it off of what you're going to do. They need to get their base offense out there, and I think Cam Scatterbo needs to play a little bit more in the running game. By the way, he did win the Angry Runs thing from Good Morning Football, which congratulations, you joined Daniel Jones. They need to go up tempo a little bit. They've got to dictate. They got to move the ball and get their down the field passing. Jaxson Dart's going to have to. He needs to be on the field at least 5 times. Just you use them 5 times. Just kind of get that going. But I got a weird feeling it's going to be to replace them. And the other thing is, you mentioned it earlier. You got to get turnovers. At some point, you've got to dictate to the other team, and turnovers are turnover on down, a fumble, an interception. I don't care what it is, but it's got to be one of those things that gets momentum. And it would be really good if the Giants could go down and get some points, and then you turn around and get a turnover. That would start to change the mentality, because usually what happens, even when we get a field goal, what do? We let them go right back down the field, and then they score, and then the momentum is gone. The other thing is to keep an eye on. If the Giants are to be even remotely relevant beyond this game, obviously you got to win. But there's a few other things that I was talking about before that are starting to line themselves up that would make it possible for the Giants to have competitive games with other people. San Francisco is in a lot of trouble. Their almost entire offense is injured. They're going to be playing Mac Jones. They're empty at wide receiver. McCaffrey's basically just waiting for the next injury to happen. I mean, that's a team that's in a lot of trouble. They are in our future. They're not that far down the road that we got to play them. New Orleans is a team that's got a lot of bad stuff happening to them. The Giants have to weather the storm, but you got to beat teams that you can. Brian Daboll has won 18 total games in the NFL.
Right.
8 of them are against the AFC. If you look at it from behind, 7 of them are between Indianapolis, 3 with Washington, and 2 with Green Bay. We have been 0-for with Philly,
Right.
0-for with Dallas. I mean, this is a time. If you're going to do anything, this is the time.
Yeah, I can't look at other teams' weaknesses now without us doing something.
Sure.
You're completely correct, but I guess to me, till we get our own house in order, what other teams are doing to me right now is irrelevant. And again, if we were competitive, you're 100% right, and I'd be like, oh, there's an opportunity here. But right now, I'm like,
no, they got to show it. You're right.
And John, the other thing is we got to run the ball. You can't have 30 yards rushing, and Wilson has 40. Wilson can't outrush. Well, he can, but you don't want Wilson to be the leading rusher on this team. I mean, so this is ridiculous. I mean, so you can't have 30 yards with your running backs. So we got to be able to run the football. Dexter Lawrence needs to show up against, again, a very good offensive line, a better offensive line than they faced last week. Dexter didn't show up last week. Dexter needs to show up, and we got to stop the run and run the football. And if we can't run the football, we're not gonna, and you're certainly not gonna score in the red zone. You got to be able to, at least the threat of running the football. And some people will say, well, it's time for Cam Scadaboo. And I'm a big Cam Scadaboo guy too. I'm still very high on Tyrone Tracy, but you can't run the ball if you're getting hit in the backfield. And that's what happened a lot of these times too. So we'll see. I hope we're on here on Monday or Tuesday doing a podcast and we're like, yay!
Yeah, it'd be great.
I have a feeling we're going to have a hangdog expression going, Jesus Christ.
I hope not. I'm heading to the airport here in about 2 hours.
Yes.
So I'll be heading to Dallas. So I'll be in one of the end zones. I'm not putting a Giants jersey on, but I will be wearing my Inside BBI t-shirt. So I will be wearing that in the crowd.
You're going to get Texans going, what the hell is BBI?
I'll be like, well, there you go. You should check it out. But I'll tell you one thing though, if Dallas loses, take the Giants out of it for just a second. Dallas loses after watching Micah Parsons really eat up Washington for Green Bay. That Texan crowd is going to start turning sideways fast. They're not happy with the continual losses. I don't think a lot of people who are Cowboys fans are thrilled with the Netflix thing that they saw. It was great video, great stuff to see. But when Jones talked about he's just as it's important for Dallas to be relevant, even if they're not winning games. And I'm like, wow, that's a weird thing. That's a weird thing to say. I mean, you might mean it, but it's a weird thing to tell people. So it could get ugly. So yeah.
Remember, we're their St. Louis Cardinals now, though. We're Dallas's get well team.
That's
so
true.
Again,
you're true.
We've got one win. We've got one win against them in 18 games. We've got one win since 2016 against them, and it was in 2020. So they've won 8 in a row.
That's the Daniel Jones one where he ran one in. He ran a big end around that almost got in, ran another one in. They turned the ball over a lot. I don't remember the
specifics. It was 23-19 that we won.
It got close late, but Dallas turned the ball over a bunch of times.
It says we eliminated them from playoff contention when we beat them. So,
which, I mean, the winning team in the NFC that year had 7 wins. So.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I'm looking at this. It's just so one-sided. The Eagles and the Giants and the Cowboys and the Giants have gotten so one-sided those rivalries that it's.
We almost need an exorcism.
We do need an exorcism,
right? For real. Like, where's that old lady who would come in and say, "This house is clear. We need to bring her in."
The next head coach on the Giants has got to be committed to physical football. He's got to be an old-fashioned. I'm going to build the trenches and rebuild this team from the trenches out. I don't care about the foo-foo wide receivers and the cornerbacks and all that stuff. We're not going to beat the Eagles and we're not going to beat the Cowboys and we're not going to beat the Commanders until we're a more physical football team. So
agreed.
Anyways, we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that later.
We're going to wrap
it
up. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you played the Inside BBI DraftKings game last week, I created a new contest for this week. Feel free to jump in, play that, where we had a little fun. I did very poorly. But with that being said, we'll be back next week. I'm not sure which day yet. It'll be once I get back, or I'll have to do it from the hotel in Dallas, or actually I'll be in Austin at that point. So, good luck to everybody. Let's pray, and I'm pretty sure that we'll see Jaxson Dart at some point during this game. And we'll catch you again real soon.